What is going on, everybody? This is Corey Lee. So y'all see me wearing these beads, right? These are two necklaces I'm actually in the middle of making. They match some other resin jewelry that I'm doing right now. This one is mostly done, and it's got the two rings that match. And I chose these colors specifically because of this is a representation. I mean, this is a like, what do you call that word? This is a more, I'm just paying homage to my high priest in heaven, who's Jesus Christ. And in the law of Moses, the high priest garments are this color, except they have different like little gemstones on the front of them for all the different tribes of Israel. But for the most part, the actual garments themselves are this color. And these beads are, man, you can't really see them that well, but they're a pearl white, a pearl blue. Well, I mean, like, these are all made from mica powders and pigments, except the white. The white is just made, well, no, except the gold. The gold is just made from mica powder all by itself. The blue is a mica powder plus a blue raw pigment, and the white is a white, like a white pearl plus a white raw pigment. But the thing about making all of these beads is that, like, you would get a lot of the beads that have, let's find a good one. Let's find a bigger one. Actually, if I want a bigger one, I got a bunch of blue ones that I didn't do, but this is probably the biggest one I got left. You get a lot of the beads that have, what am I using? Let's put this on something for me to hold it. A lot of the beads that have this little extra stuff, right? And the reason it's like that is because when you put the beads inside the mold, you can accidentally pour just a little too much. If you pour too little, then you might end up with a dip in the bead, because like the resin might shrink as it's drying, and you'll end up with a little dip in it. In some way, I would much rather have like a little flat dip in it than having all of this extra, all this extra stuff on the top. But the best way to clean up resin beads, to get all of this stuff off, and like to get it all off easy, is using a hot knife. So either way, like, you might not get it all off easy. I mean, like, you might not get it all off perfect. You can get it all off perfect with a hot knife. And even if you pour just enough, you might still have like a little bit of a flap, left on there. But this is one that I done, and I didn't get it all off perfect. Like, you can still see a little more extra on the top. And that's just like, that's just the battle with doing resin beads. But the easiest way to get this off is, you can run it across sandpaper. Now, running it across sandpaper might take you some time, and plus you'll leave some sanding marks on it. But if you want to get this off in a clean fashion, get a wood burner. And this wood burner came with like a hobby knife attachment. And a hot knife will clean this stuff off so easy. Like, and see, like, the thing about it being hot is that it'll still have a gloss finish. It won't have a dull down finish like rubbing it across sandpaper, because then you might rub it in a spot you don't want it, and then that's a dull down spot right there, and then you got to polish all the beads, and like, I just don't want to go through all that. Now, I could still take the liberty of rubbing the beads across some sandpaper just to get it all down smooth, but I mean, like, when the beads are, or like when the part you're doing the cuts on are off facing each other, it's not that easy to see that. But like, it's not that easy to see like any errors in the bead. So like, let's come up closer. And with this being up in this position, I might have some trouble with doing it, just keeping it steady, because it's too far away. But just take a hot knife, and I like to go all the way around the bead. Like, I like to, twist it around to make sure I'm getting flat on every side, and it just kind of comes off. And that way you can still have a bit of a gloss finish there. It's kind of hard to still see this on white, but trust me, it works. And I cleaned up all of these beads except the blue ones. The blue ones, the only beads I did clean up were the gold ones and the white ones, because you can still see on this bead here, on this blue bead here, you see like a little bit of an end of it right there. But like let's just take a gold one. On this gold one, you might see just a little piece of it, and that's from just, you know, like taking a hot knife. But when the beads are all off facing each other that way, it just isn't that obvious. And so a hot knife will clean up resin pretty darn easy. The only thing this don't work too well on are resin rings, because it's not that easy to get a completely flat and consistent cut. And you'll see like little waves in the cut and all of that stuff. And you'll see in some spots of the ring, you'll see how the blade is doing the cut and not the heat. And like you'll see like a little drag in there, like a little drag here and there, and it just won't have that much of a consistent finish. But when you're doing like little small spots like this, a hot knife is the best way to do it. And make sure you're wearing a respirator, because resin smoke is not good for you. And then sometime what you can do is you can lay the hot knife flat down on it, like just to flatten it down some. You know, like just to kind of melt it down some. And I find that this works better when the resin is still a little uncured. And every now and then you might want to clean off your knife, so that way you're not, you know, dragging burnt material across your bead. And you can you know, like you can refine that bead to get it more and more perfect. And that's about the best you're gonna get it. Like that's as best as it's gonna get, like that. And all resin beads will have some kind of flat top to them. They all will. But when the beads are all, or like when they're all facing each other like this, it's not that obvious to see that, you know. And the best part about making resin beads instead of going to the store and buying yourself a bunch of plastic ones is the fact that you can do any color you want. You can do additives. You can put like little tiny glitters and flower petals and things like that in them. I'm getting ready to do some glow in the dark like little rocks. I can put them in all the beads, but I want to make sure that those rocks won't float to the bottom of the bead. And I got to make sure nobody's pulling up here. I'm at a job site. I'm actually supposed to be on the inside doing some work, not out here making videos. And I had to take me a little bit of a break because I was tired of wearing a respirator. I mean, there's sanding down wood floors. My knees were hurting and my face was hurting from wearing a respirator, and I just wanted to, you know, give my face a little bit of a break. That's why I'm not wearing a respirator now. As you can see, I kind of got these little marks on the side of my face from wearing my respirator. But I have all my windows open, including my back hatch, so I got a decent amount of airflow in here. And plus, I don't do this that much without a respirator, so I, like, you know, I'm just, like, I'm taking my own little risk. And so a hot knife, get a wood burner, and make sure that wood burner has a hobby knife attachment. And just go get you like a little, you know, like a kit of X-Acto knife blades with, like, you know, different shape blades. You might need a wider blade. You might need different shape blades for just like all depending on what you're doing. Because a hot knife cuts through resin like a hot knife through butter. I kid you not, it does. It just cuts through. And this is the best way to clean up resin beads. And running them across sandpaper, I mean, these are too small of parts to be doing on sandpaper. You can, I mean, it's too easy to make errors. Yeah, you can put like a little tiny screwdriver through it, like how I'm doing, like a little tiny drill bit through it, like how I'm doing it, and running across sandpaper. But this is faster. And like, they don't have to be perfect, because when the beads are all facing each other, it's not that easy to see. In fact, it's not even that easy to see on this necklace when the beads are all facing each other, that the blue ones aren't even cut. I still have the little extra, you know, bits and pieces on there. But it's so much better when those beads are, now this is an example of a bead that didn't need any work, because that got poured just right. Yep, that got poured just right, so that one didn't need any work. But not all of them are going to be poured just right. And when you pour them just right, you risk, you know, that resin shrinking down like around that hole, and you having, you know, like a funny shape to it. But just in case you have some beads that need some TLC because you poured a little too much, this is the best way. Now, I saw somebody, and the reason I even tried this in the first place is because I saw somebody take a blowtorch and take it to a razor blade and clean off their beads. The only problem with that is that you got to keep on heating up that blade. And once that blade cool down, then you're going to have inconsistencies in your cut, because you can tell the difference between the heat doing the cut and the blade doing the cut, because it'll look like there's drag in it. And I don't have a good way of explaining that to you. Actually, I just might have a good way of explaining that drag look to you. Let me go through some of my rings. I got hundreds of rings, and I'm getting ready to make necklaces to match all of the rings. But the thing about the necklaces is that they're all gonna have custom made charms to them. So, like, I mean, just the beaded necklace is not the point. It's the custom charms that's really gonna be the selling point. But just wait until I do mine. Like, after I do mine, then it'll be like, wow, that's nice. But mine isn't done yet. I might have a good example of a ring. Let's see. Where you might have some drag in it. That's a first example. And so, like, my first example, what I tried to do is heat up the epoxy and then cut it with a blade. The only problem with heating up the epoxy is that the blade is going to constantly try to cool it down. And then also, like, when that epoxy is hot, it, you know, like, it kind of bends out of shape a little too easy. Let me see if I can find a good example of that extra drag in the cut of one of the rings. Let's see what I got here. I don't think I have any I can show you, but I mean, like, you'll understand what I mean. Like, I kid you not, like, that's not a thing I was preparing for on this video. I really didn't even, you know, have an example all laid out and present for you to be able to explain about the extra drag in the cut from when the blade, like the sharpness of the blade, because the blade isn't going to be sharp enough to cut through that resin clean. It doesn't matter if it's a brand new razor blade or not. It's just not sharp enough to make a very clean and consistent cut through the resin. Now, I lost my little tiny drill bit I was using. I can't find it. Now I gotta use something different. Man, like, you see what y'all made me do. You see what y'all made me do. But honestly, I might have enough of these beads done already to be able to finish my white beaded necklace. And then all the smaller beads are gonna be on my bracelet. But just wait until my custom charm is done on my necklace. It'd be a totally different story. A completely different story, because this necklace looked fine. Heck, I mean, I like this one too. I think I like the round beaded one a little bit better. Only thing about the round beaded one is that the hole of the bead isn't big enough to kind of flow through this little clasp. So yeah, like, I like the look of the round beads. I just think that this chain is too long. Some people might like it. I got a lot of friends who do I got a lot of friends who do rap music. They might be interested in a big chain like that. Sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm stereotyping people in any way, shape, or form, but y'all know exactly what I mean. I need to find my little drill bit. But other than that, that's all I wanted to show you. Because what I wanted to do is do a couple more cuts, but I'm sure somebody get the point of what I'm trying to show you here. It's that hot knife, man. That hot knife really does the trick. Let's see if this toothpick will work. And because what I don't want to do is get out of the car and go all the way in the trunk and yada yada yada. Okay, I got something that'll do it. Oh, so I even tried to take these little flush cutters and use these little flush cutters, but the only way that these flush cutters are going to work is if the resin was still kind of fresh. I mean, maybe if you want to take off some little extra bits and pieces off the side, so that way it's easier for you to do your hot knife. But the flush cutters, not gonna cut it, man. I just save the flush cutters for pulling out staples in the floor when I do hardwood floors. But let's do another cut. Hopefully this bead don't move on top of this. See, it's the heat that really makes the cut, not the sharpness of the blade do work, and you don't want to move too quick because then you're going to be using the blade to cut and not the heat. But you want the heat to do the job because the heat is going to keep that resin nice and flat and melted, so that way it could still have a gloss finish. And if you want to lay that knife on there just a little longer just to be able to give that more of a smooth finish, hey, be my guest, you can do that too. But other than that, it's a nice little trick for you.